You silly kid. Creatives, community, kind folks out there, hello, welcome to RPG with DBJ. We continue our dissemination, our deep dive, our dissection of characters from the Marvel Cinematic Universe and what we can steal for our role-playing games. You don't need to be a fan of the characters, but I think you can steal a lot to use in your game, just using some of the very basics by scraping off the reskinning, scraping off the serial numbers and using these ideas for your games. So follow us along in this journey. Of course, we are engaged in this journey as we get closer to Avengers Endgame. We are also getting closer to Game of Thrones. So we are switching back and forth each week by taking characters from popular media for Game of Thrones next week. But this week we're doing Ant-Man, or today we're doing Ant-Man, but this week we're doing Avengers characters. Woo, messed that up. So, okay, Ant-Man. Well, let's get a little summary here, okay? And in many ways, how we can generalize the character and then pull something from it. All right, so Ant-Man, ex-criminal, thief, father, divorced, has a daughter, and in more ways than one wants to do the right thing. As a matter of fact, was incarcerated for essentially doing the right thing. And he has a certain set of skills, maybe a couple of parkour skills, kind of a thief, hacker, and it's surrounded by an entourage of other individuals who, for good or bad, whether, criminal or on the side of justice, they kind of support him in their own ways and also give him a little stability. As everyone says, was about to say, really jump the gun if it's supposed to be for next week. No. I just giving a little preamble as the link propagates through the internet. So okay, so you have this gentleman, and he really wants to do the right thing, but sometimes he has to break the rules to get it done, and along his way, he breaks into someone's home and realizes that someone there is an inventor. And this inventor doesn't necessarily need to be, quote unquote, the typical inventor retired hero, but that's a very, very common trope, and steals something from this gentleman and steals the Ant-Man suit. And hilarity ensues as he learns to use this suit and then eventually realizes that he is the one who has both the skills on fighting on the side of law and fighting on, being quite a bit undercover to prevent this same technology getting into the hands of evildoers. All right. Very common, very typical superhero type thing, ignoring the hilarity that comes into someone who's able to shrink down. And like Ant-Man had for a very long time been relegated into the same location that Aquaman had been. Oh, you talk to fish? Oh, you shrink down to the size of an ant? And then had been made a joke. Now, of course, those particular power sets, that ability to grow and shrink, well, if you are a comic book reader, you well know that, and if you've seen any of the movies, you know that there's so many things you can do with that, as well as the fact that the character himself is quite hilarious. He's got a very strong comedic sense to himself, likes to point out the obvious, is a little bit awkward around individuals, and sometimes socially he says and does things that might be embarrassing to himself or others, and they tend to have he tends to have a type of social presence that makes other people uncomfortable simply because he doesn't feel the need to fit into regular society. So what can we pull from this? Well, one thing I think is just to have fun. Everyone says, I mean, if you know the comics, you know that Hank Pym is also super unlikable and kind of a murder hobo in how he solves solutions. Yeah, he's a little bit more. If you know the history of Hank Pym, in the comics, he's more of a problem than a solution if you think about it. Or for every solution he comes up with, it's just like, dude, you made Ultron, and in the comics, man, Ultron is like, what are they up? They went well past Ultron 13 or something. It's like you made an adamantium robot, a sentient adamantium robot that wants to wipe out all life on Earth, and we still keep you on the team. And he's kind of an ass. So one thing that you bring up with Hank Pym is that in the movies we do have Hank Pym, who's the retired Ant-Man, and just in one or two lines, I think they hinted that he's not able to use the Pym particles, because it has an effect on him. So they don't really go into detail about that, but it's a whatever kind of thing, right? You have the retired individual, and then you have the new person coming along who picks up the mantle. And whether it's Ant-Man or not, how many times have we seen the young squire take over for the retired hero? What is it? Batman Beyond is a perfect example of that. The retired hero who can no longer do it finds this person who has rough edges around them, and then tries to cultivate them into becoming a bigger, better, stronger version of themselves, and to kind of correct their own mistakes. As everyone says, I believe they say the effect on the body would physically crush him. It's why he has heart pills. Yeah, exactly. And of course, you have to have the reason, especially if the retired individual, like, why are they retired if they are physically adept? And it could be anything from, hey, Rickard, what's going on? Morning. Maybe it could be anything from magic to some kind of science or infection or the technology or madness or something like that this individual may not be revealing to the PC. Let's say we go down the PC route. So a player character is like, hey, I'm going to be the new, and then you just fill in the blank, the new wizard, the new hero, the new someone being taken under the wing and being trained for something new. For example, we love to go down the warlock path, right? So what if there's like a coven of hags and witches and oracles or something, and the new young woman is brought into the fold because she has the gift of seeing the future, and so they bring her around for the Raven Queen or something, and the Raven Queen's like, I don't know, you're gonna have to train her a little bit. And so that could be like a way of, instead of a direct good old warlock, the catch-22 in D&D. Hell yeah. It's like, yeah, I want the power, and maybe that wasn't a good idea, but you get what I'm saying, right? I mean, we can go the opposite way, right, with the paladin's order, and you could take this with anything, the old ranger, blind ranger that lives in the woods. And oh, wait a minute, we did that with the drow elf Dritz, didn't we? That Drizzt or whatever. But anyway, you get the point, right? The old hermit, the broken down warrior who still has it, who teaches the young squire, swordsmanship, and then pats him on the rear end and tells them to send them out into the world, and they come back. And that's, in many ways, that's a great way to have some NPCs in that person's life. You have this important individual who can teach them many tricks of the trade, i.e., leveling up every time they come back to the village to learn yet one more skill, or this individual uncovers one more thing about their past, showing them more spells, or the ancient sword they carry from their family lineage, or the sword they're carrying who they may not have a relationship with this family lineage, but the retired warrior says, the third king of the blasted lands once told me about this, how he used to pray to the warriors of his faith, and then if you do this, the sword lights on fire or something like that. And the new PC is like, oh, really? Sweet. Tell me about that. So a great way to hand out magic items or special gifts or boons or what have you, that kind of thing. Zevran says it would be interesting to play a legacy character, an apprentice that must work with a team to have NPCs involved that normally wouldn't until higher levels, access to new potential areas. Exactly. I mean, even within the scope of the Ant-Man movies, right? He's surrounded by other people. His daughter, his wife or ex-wife, the police officer that is currently involved in a relationship with his wife. Of course, you can't ignore his extended family of team members, right? The ones that were thieves turned security personnel with their own funny personalities. And they, of course, they can get involved in things or do things for him, for good or bad. And of course they can become, of course they can get in trouble and he's got to save their lives and whatnot. But in many ways, that's not really their purpose. Their purpose is to supply him with these individuals that are part of his family, and he can go to them when he's got problems. They allow him to solve situations. Let's say you want to do a one-on-one campaign, and these extra individuals help him, whether it's finding a car or bribing an official or helping him sneak past someplace when he doesn't specifically have those skills. Zevran says, continues on to say, and the drama of expectations. Quote, I thought you were Jared's apprentice. He could have solved this problem in 5 minutes. What's taking so long? Right. And again, it is the you can have fun with the comparisons from the old to the new, whether the new PC in no way is like the old legacy character, and trying to live up to. If you want to make it kind of deep and depressing, you can do the you don't live up to the expectations of this other person, and everyone's folding their arms like, you wear the banners of the Knights of the Rose, but you don't act like one. Or it could be the other way, like, wow, you're a Knight of the Rose. I thought they were outlawed or something. And again, this, your player character could be a symbol for like goodness and honor, even if the character used to be a criminal or some kind of vagabond or something, even a charlatan. This trope has been used before, even like in the movie The Postman and First Night movies, and there's plenty of other stories that do this, where PC finds clothing or steals something, puts it on, and then everyone expects this individual to be a noble or an honorable knight, and fill in the gaps, right? So you could play with that trope as well, and where this person who, because I once made a character who was part of a gang that killed a priest, and the character, as the gang wanted to leave, ended up staying, feeling guilty for killing this priest that gave them protection and healing and food, and then he ended up putting on the clothing of the priest to hide his identity, and then end up becoming a cleric. And that was the start of his start of the character, where he had a criminal background and was a cleric and was fumbling along in what they're trying to do. And so you could have a character who they don't know their priestly order, they don't know what it means to be an honorable knight, but they sure have a whole lot of criminal skills. And yes, I'm doing the criminal honor thing, but you could flip it with someone who's a noble, who's hiding in a dark secret city of thieves or something, and backstabbers, and is trying to assimilate, but in their assimilation, their background, maybe let's say they're completely honorable and well educated, maybe their behavior is starting to rub off on the people they know, whereas the people they know are starting to teach them, listen, here, you're going to need a disguise, and let me show you how to pickpocket. And by the way, you see that thing in my back pocket? Those are lock-picking tools. You're going to need to learn how to use those. So I think playing with the extended family, I think is a great idea, whether biological or not, or great friends and such surrounding this individual. But let's move on into some of their capabilities. All right. this specifically with Ant-Man, I love the idea. You guys know I'm a self-appointed third pillarist, and I love that third pillar exploration where you get to play with so many things. Sliding down a storm drain and almost being trampled by people, and having his normal human strength in such a small size so he can jump really far, having a titanic battle on around a kid's toys and stuff, almost being hit by Thomas the Train, and it falls off the track and throwing blocks around and such. And you could kind of play with that if you created a situation in your own games where the PCs are being hunted. You start the game out with the PCs being hunted, and they go into a locked room, and there's no exit out of it. And the person that they were meeting with says, "Here, drink these potions. These potions allow you to go through that storm drain. It'll shrink you down to a couple of inches tall, but you can go through the storm drain." And so now you have an adventure where the PCs are all 3 inches tall, and you just reskin everything that's giant in the monster manual as being normal size, and they just happen to be small. So instead of a house cat, it's a dire tiger, saber-toothed tiger. Instead of normal human beings walking around, it's frost giants or titans or something like that. Zevron says, I love the fight between Batman, Terry McGinnis from Batman Beyond, and Joker. Bruce tells him to ignore his quips. He likes to talk, and Terry says, wait, I like to talk too. And shit talks Joker to set him off edge. Fights dirty, something Bruce never did. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, you could have a classic bad guy, right? Like Joker's a classic bad guy and has always fought the noble knights of the realm, and for 8 generations has always defeated them, and no one's been able to take them out until you get this one person who's just like, I'm gonna punch him in his throat and leg trip him, and throw a tarp over his head and all that kind of stuff, right? Like you said, talks, shit talks him to death and stuff. And the bad guy is just like, what? Like, knights aren't supposed to do that. And then of course he's taking his shield and like hitting him in the calves and running from him to hide behind something, whatever, and hide in shadows. And the guy's like, what the hell? What's going on? So I absolutely, right. It could just be using different tactics defeats the bad guy, as opposed to just, I just gained another level and I'm going to hit him harder. It could be tricking him, setting him off edge, just being uncertain of how to deal with this X Factor PC in wrapped up in wrapped in a blanket that everyone else knows, you know what I mean? Wrapped in a cloak or disguise that everyone thinks they know they're doing. Zevron says, villain prepares to flee and player tries to kill him. Quote, it's against your code to kill an unarmed opponent. I took no oaths yet. Exactly. Yeah, it's the end of the Deadpool movie. Like, the whole speech, Colossus is like, we should have mercy on our opponents and teach them new ways, and maybe there's another chance for him. But Deadpool puts a bullet in his head. He's just like, dude, I was just waiting for you to stop talking. And even doing something as simple as that, you can have a lot of fun with it. And of course, every single game does not need to be hard and gritty and dark and sinister, and we're all swimming around the deep emotions of overshadowing everything. Sometimes we just need to have some fun, and every once in a while you can have, maybe there's a player in your group who has a sarcastic, snide, kind of jokey way about them. So maybe just allow them to have that little bit of a comedic element to themselves, even if they're surrounded by other people who are dark and sinister and want to do a lot of introspection. Yeah, Zevra says it could always be more gritty though, and on fire. Yeah, I mean, why not just allow a little bit of fun into the game? I tend to be one that falls towards the dark and gritty, but every once in a while, to break to break the tension, you need a joke. And it is known that people who are in life and death situations, police officers, firemen, military personnel, medical personnel, are they use humor to break the tension of the things that they see. And it's not it's not them being evil, or it's not even them being callous, but it's just it's a normal psychological protection method to protect ourselves from from stresses. And like Zevron says, who plays games to have fun? Well, hell, we could do a whole series on the 8 types of fun. I mean, that's been a thing that's been floating around. I might bring that back up again after Endgame or something, but whatever. But yeah. Anyway, WebDM has a video about the tyranny of fun. But anyway, let's get back to Ant-Man. Ant-Man also is a character who is learning the ropes, right? Like we mentioned before about the Batman Beyond character and such. And so it could be a great way to explain, like, they have greater abilities, but they're just learning how to use them now and growing into them. And so maybe the game master and player just agrees that sure, they have a lot of skills or abilities or something under their belt. They just have to grow into them. Kind of like racial powers that you get as you gain levels. It could be, growing into those abilities. I know the Aarakocra race with flight at first level, everyone goes berserk over this player character. I want to play Aarakocra Archer, and everyone's just like rolling their eyes and feels like it's game breaking. But there are some people who might say, well, okay, listen, at first level, we're going to say from first to fourth, you get maybe levitation, once every short rest or something. And then from fifth to eighth level, you're going to get, and then kind of ramp it up, just like tieflings. With tieflings have certain abilities that they increase over time. And so you could take the same method with class features or races or certain powers, or sorceress powers or something like that, where this person starts to learn or unlock or uncover certain abilities as they ramp up in power. And if you want to, you can even have an agreement with the game master or dungeon master and say, okay, I'm going to play a character, but I don't know everything that I have. So, for example, it would be like playing a cleric who is not aware of the miracles that they can perform. So they may not know that they can heal, or they may not know that they can summon a weapon that they can use to strike down their enemies, or summon a blast of flame from the sky to strike their enemies behind boulders, right? It could just be revealed to them as they just pray that something happens for their benefit. It could be the random spells being picked, or it could be the gods pick the certain spells for that PC when they wake in the morning, not knowing that they'll need them later on. It could almost be like a foreshadowing of events kind of thing. Deadman says, like the Thrycreen from Dark Sun. Yeah, oh man, Dark Sun, man, that brings up memories. But yes, the Thrycreen from Dark Sun had, if I'm not mistaken, I believe as they leveled, they gained access to greater abilities. And this could be a way for someone to explain, like, why a first level character doesn't have something, yet when they turn 9th level, they do have it, but they've always had it. And mind you can also insert these things, whether someone makes a critical role, or you use inspiration heavily in your games, that somehow this quote unquote special thing happens that the player is able to do, whether they transport themselves across many miles, or they turn incorporeal or ethereal and pass through a wall, or they hypnotize, the big bad guy by staring into their eyes or something like that, right? It's the Hellboy thing, right? Why do I have this stone hand, and then you find out in the course of the adventure as being Hellboy that, oh, that stone hand is supposed to fit into this, fit into this one area that's supposed to lock or unlock a gate to hell, so that's also a thing you can do with the Ant-Man, where he's got the suit, he's got the growing and shrinking, he's not exactly sure how to use it, but then he's like, hey, I've been practicing this other thing and, practicing how to use it. And then, of course, boom. Also, what we get in with Ant-Man are lots of tricks and I'll say he learns lots of, in Marvel superheroes, they were called power stunts, where it's a heavily modified version of what he can do. It's like, hey, throw this at this, right? Picks up the small, Hot Wheels car, throws it, and then throws the disc to make it grow into a fuel truck, right? It's playing with the throwing the Pez dispenser and then firing a one of the growing tabs to make it grow into a big giant or a salt shaker that blocks a door, or the stack of Hot Wheels cars that can become a real car you can drive, or the minivan that you're driving around and you hit the shrinking thing inside of it and it shrinks down to a little a remote control automobile that can fit under other cars. It's playing with allowing, especially someone who's very creative, playing with the powers they have. Like, I'm going to use my burning hands to I'm going to roll the barrel of ale or oil down the street, and when it breaks breaks against the corner of the building, I'm going to use my burning hands and light it on fire at my foot so that it lights the flames all the way down the street or something. Or can I use a grease spell to put grease on a rope so no one can climb up it or something? Or any number of unique ways I'm going to use my Tensor's floating disc spell and put heavy rocks on it and then push the floating disc out over top of the valley and then make it disappear to drop rocks on an opponent. And so it's just basically allowing someone who's very creative in their abilities to do something that is beyond the scope of what is normally written, and giving them other, opening up other potential storylines. You know what I mean? Zevron says you certainly can play with all sorts of monsters, given 5e really isn't meant to fight creatures of differing sizes. Imagine shrinking down so low that you see gelatinous cubes harming a person so you can fight it, and it's just bacteria, or growing so large to fight huge gargantuan monsters. Exactly, dude. Like you don't need to, like a Tarrasque could actually be a cockroach, but you just happen to be shrunk down so small that it's this giant sized thing. You know what I mean? Like you said, gelatinous cubes, but they're just bacteria. Of course. I mean, why not have, the ancient wizard is dying and no one knows why the ancient wizard of the college of arcane study is dying. And so they gather the PCs together, and the one PC is like, well, I can grow and shrink, but I don't know if this is going to work. And, someone's like, there's something inside of his body. So the players have, the adventure is going inside of the wizard's body to uncover what it is that's infected him. And then the whole adventure is traveling around inside the body. Now, I know there are adventures out there. I think there's one for Dungeon World where there's like a world snake or something, and you go inside the monster, and there's a whole dungeon inside of the guts of the monster. But they're just talking, of course, stealing things from Ant-Man here, where you have someone who like basically can grow and shrink. And sure, there's limitations involved in it, right? Like if the PC can shrink down, they maybe you just say, hey, they have a disadvantage to push and shove and resist being grappled or pinned down by something larger than them. But when they're bigger than it, they have the advantage, even though they may not receive, suffer damage. Zelda whale dragon, exactly, right? It's the, Rickard says the Zelda whale drag dungeon. Sorry, Zelda whale dungeon. Ugh, man, my stumbling over everything. But yes, you are absolutely correct. I mean, you can Google in, uh, dungeon monsters as well, just going inside of their bodies. And then what's the movie Osmosis Jones? The white blood cell teams up with the antihistamine or something. Drix and Osmosis Jones team up to solve the crime of the city of Frank being infected by the Ebola virus, but no one believes it, just thinks this is just a little fever. So yeah, having a Fantastic Voyage, another movie that it's old. I think it's 60s, late 60s, early 70s, but I think it still holds up. And Rickard says, what's that French Belgian cartoon about the body? I don't know, man. I don't know. I know Dead Man probably has some information on that, but no, I mean, I can look it up now. I'm not gonna top head myself, but you guys get the point, right? It's the yeah, Once Upon a Time Life. Is that the name of it? I'm gonna look that up. Seriously, I'm gonna look that up. So, and check that out. But yes, exactly. Here, I mean, how much fun can you have? Like, what is it? What are some other things? A Bug's Life and Ants, where the PCs may go to a realm. They're normal sized. They go to a realm where everything is gargantuan sized around them. So, the frost giants and the hill giants and the titans might just be normal people just going about their business, and the PCs are like, where did we end up at? Did we shrink, or is this world just big? And so you could pull out all of the like you said, the gelatinous cubes, the dangerous plants, the house cats and guard dogs that happen to be 50 feet tall or larger, going after the PCs as they're running through the marketplace or something. You could reskin there's a trap, the rolling boulder trap from Indiana Jones, that's in the like the Player's Handbook or Dungeon Master's Guide or whatever. I think it's Player's Handbook for traps, right? And that could just be fruit rolling off of a fruit cart, right? They're going, the rolling boulder could be an orange or an apple going after them. You could play and reskin so many things. A pit trap could just be a crack in the pavement. That kind of thing. Hey, I'm stuck down in this 80-foot crevice, and it's just a simple crack in the cobblestone pavement or something. Ricker says, yeah, like an educational cartoon about how the body works, where the different cells, synapses, blood cells are all characters you follow. Might be nostalgia, but I remember it being quite good. Exactly. I mean, like you said, the synapses could be electrical storms or something, and they're zapping everyone, and the red blood cells are carrying oxygen, but they're also adhesive, and they're carrying the PCs towards the heart, and the heart itself could be a trap as it sucks in blood, and they have to time it so that they go through the heart valves that are closing and opening and closing, and it could get crushed in between the heart valves. And oh man, there's so many things. The hiding in the bone marrow, and white blood cells attacking the PCs because they think they're foreign. And what was in Osmosis Jones, they end up having a fight on the surface of the eyeball, and they were standing in waist deep fluid that is the fluid inside of the eyeball or something. I mean, there's all kinds of stomach acid and being flushed out of the bladder, and I mean, he could just go on and on and on. Well, Zebra says, getting involved in pixie politics since they are normally way too small to talk to or deal with. Oh, that's a really good one. Especially if, how funny is it? We think of sprites and pixies as being small, little mites as being these small little things, but the PCs are shrunk down so that they are of equal height, and you find out that they're far more like, instead of going, oh, they're just pixies and sprites, and you're just you're brushing them along like they're fireflies, but then the PCs get shrunk down to their size, and there's a whole political spectrum of fireflies and spiders and praying mantises and wasps and all kinds of things. Maybe the PCs the PCs have to maybe you want to use some mounted combat, and they have to ride on the back of flies and butterflies and dragonflies and things to, like you said, doing the pixie politics, because maybe something is building in the dark wood or what have you. And it could just be there's this old tree and the tree's getting rotted, and the pixies and the fireflies and stuff have always lived around this tree, but they have to move to yet another tree. Yeah, Zevron says, suddenly you have skilled warriors who are incredibly fast and can fly with inherent magic. Exactly. And can kick the PC's asses, even though they have like butterfly wings. I mean, you end up finding out like they're far more dangerous than you think they are, right? Gulliver's Travel is another one playing with size, both being small and large. Fern Gully, Dead Man brings up Fern Gully. Hell yeah. I mean, and really, do you really need to give okay, do you really need to quantify it, or can you just say, listen, I'm running a game and this is what's going to happen. You guys go to this hidden island, this mysterious island, and boom, hilarity ensues, right? It's the guys, you wake up and this thing happens, or the characters, warlock patron, we're going back to the warlock, right? Warlock patron, or one of the gods, or the druidic enclave, whatever the case may be, the arcane trickster cadre or something like that. They need the PCs to solve this situation, and boom, here's the spell. And the first 5 minutes of the game is just going, hey, listen, this is what's going to happen. That you throw the players into the situation, and boom, now you just have some fun, right? Just have fun with it. I think so every once in a while, maybe we might want to throw a really, I'm going to use the word again, gonzo, kind of out there concept to change things up a little bit, just so that there aren't, you're not always stuck into the deep, dark introspection and the guilt and the dark despair, the dark cloud, games. If you're running them super serious, maybe, and who's to say that the consequences aren't super serious, but the situation itself is a little bit like, wow, this is kind of strange, but might be kind of cool. For example, the player characters happen to stumble upon the evil hag, and the evil hag curses them, and they're shrunk down. And so now the players have to navigate the evil hag's garden. And so the evil hag has her nasty cats and her birds and her plants that are dangerous. And the pixies, know the evil hag is manipulating the dark forest, and the pixies need the PC's skills. But then there are other unseelie court fae that are on the dark hag's side. And so when the PCs shrink down, they're at the same eye level as the pixies. So maybe they're not really pixies any longer. Maybe they are, I don't know, what's something out there? Try to reskin, like Oni or Ogre Magi or Sphinxes or Naga or Rakshasa or something like that. Even when they're shrunk down, maybe you pull out your Celestials and Fiends out of your books and whatnot to symbolize the power they have in comparison to the PCs being tiny. And then when the PCs grow back to their normal height, you find out that like this whole thing happened inside of a beehive, or all of this happened in a 3x3 patch of grass. Like, wow, all this happened in a greenhouse. Wow. You know what I mean? So you could play with that as well. Also, remember that as funny as Ant-Man is and as silly as the character can be, he's also like very instrumental. I think we all realize that for good or bad, Ant-Man is going to be extremely instrumental in how Endgame progresses. We all believe that the quantum realm is going to have some effect in the movie, if not the most important effect in the movie, because they already hinted about time travel, Tron travel, and stuff like that. Dead Man brings up like, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, of course, and all of the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and all of the, what is it? Honey, I Grew the Kids was another, you know, a sequel to that. Um, animated movie Over the Hedge, where all of the PCs were animals that lived in the woods, like a squirrel, a chipmunk, a raccoon, et cetera, a possum, and then they were trying to sneak into the local development and whatnot. So yeah, you could have so much fun playing with that idea and just going crazy with it. Rickard says, one, going back to the inside body idea, you could go metaphorical, say a sci-fi setting where wormhole network only works as long as the trade flows, like veins and blood. Well, you both metaphorically and physically. Oh, I'm sorry. Rickard goes on to say, and two, if something happens in one system, you get cascading failure unless you repair that system. I love that idea. And who's to say that in your setting, or who's to say that when wormhole technology is created, especially like in a sci-fi setting, whether or fantasy setting or what have you, who's to say that the external travel through dimensions isn't the internal travel through ourselves, right? It can be both at the same time, meaning both, yet both being completely different. So why not have that be a thing, that to travel from one place to another instantly requires you can travel from one place to another and time hasn't passed, but you have to navigate these strange realms where, like Rickard says, that there could be a cascading effect if failure happens one place. So the PCs can't just go in and start blasting everything. They have to take care and avoid all the hazards to navigate through the body. And what a great way to establish the rules necessary without needing to explain everything. In other words, what I mean is, when the players first travel, maybe they have no idea what's going on. But as you give more and more clues, because you as a game master are like, listen, I know what's going on. So as the players involve themselves in something, one of the players might be like, you know what, this is just like, I'm thinking this is like inside the human body. Maybe that's how the rules work in this other realm. And who knows? Maybe an entire dimensional aperture literally is the inside of someone else's body, whether it's a real person, or whether it just happens to be an intergalactically large individual. A wormhole is an opening into the body of the gods or something. I mean, and maybe maybe there's never an answer to that, but all we know is that in order to get spacecraft or spelljammer craft or what have you, or even PCs to physically walk from one place to another or swim, psychically move, they have to go with the flow through the veins and arteries and past the heart and internal systems, kidneys and liver and organs. And what a great way to an excuse. Like, if you have some knowledge about how the body systems work, you could turn them into nations of sorts. Or, well, you could go small and make them dungeon rooms. You could go large and make them counties or nations or continents. Rickard says, so you can have the galactic political center equals the brain, and you have a recycling plant equals the liver. Of course. Yeah. That's exactly. The kidneys are like, and I wouldn't say prison. Maybe that would be like gallbladder. Man, wow. Digestive system is a trade center as it disseminates the needed supplies to where it needs to go. The lungs bring in oxygen, so out of the air, and disseminates that. So it's, boy, yes. Here we can go down a deep dark path with the body, each organ being its own political center. And yeah, blood would be trade routes. Yeah, of course, etc. Absolutely. The nervous system would be like communication or high speed systems, maybe. Zevron says a dungeon doesn't have to be a cave or an ancient ruin in a mountain. A dungeon can be a monster or human body fighting gelatinous cubes, worms that act as parasites, dodge stomach acids, poisonous gases. Hell yeah. Oh, absolutely. Hell yeah. And of course, why didn't, like you said, everything doesn't have to be a dungeon, in a cave or a mountain. So we can reskin a ton of those, break out the oozes. Everybody hates oozes, right? Gelatinous cubes, black puddings, gray ooze, ochre jellies. Oh, there's one I'm missing. Brown something. Yellow mold. There's a fungus as well. I mean, you could break out all of those. Break out your acid spitting creatures, and of course, everything doesn't need to be an enemy. Some of them could be just trying to capture the PCs, like reskin spiders that are like basically just capturing the PCs to take them to certain important parts of the body. And it might be, maybe the gelatinous cubes aren't acidic. Maybe they just engulf the PCs and take them to they take them to the feet, and the PCs are like, oh, I'm trying to get to the brain. I don't want to go this direction. You know what I mean? And trying to bust through the arteries or walls of the veins might be dangerous to this galactic sized human body. So if they do too much damage, it could cause the death of it. And that, like you said before, the cascading effect might be dangerous as well. Zevran says by the end, most of the player characters want a bath or shower. You could roll for diseases and other things to have them be paranoid, cleanly. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I'm sure they were covered in oozes, checking their backpacks, like, get the stuff off of me. Yeah. Especially if they go into the bladder. Oh man. Yeah, it's like, is that lemonade or chocolate? It's like, it's neither one, guys. Everyone says, Ranger, my favorite terrain is intestines. Other players in the DM, you what? Wait, you what? My favorite terrain is intestines. I love that though. I mean, strange, but what a wild setting, right? I mean, what if your entire setting is the human body and that's it? The PCs don't know anything else. That would be sweet. That would be a sweet I think that would be a great idea. I don't know how you would do it, and I'm sure you'd have to have some like fits and stumbles, but what the hell? Why not? Yeah, Osmosis Jones, the game. Exactly. Rickard says it works even in large scale if you come across brutal battlefields. Right. A battlefield could be just a simple scar on someone's arm, but actually when you zoom in, it's a brutal battlefield of fighting against infections from the outside world, and the red blood cell or the platelets trying to fix everything, and the red blood cells escaping, and you need to keep the resources inside of the body, and the player characters are trying to do something. Oh, or fight Jumungnger, the world serpent. Yeah. Thor, of course, Thor killing Jumungnger, I think, brings about Ragnarok, or whatever the case may be. Different stories, but hell yeah. What are some other things too, man? With because the idea of using, and it doesn't have to be the human body. I mean, we know what the human body is, but the body itself doesn't need to be human. It could just have the aspects of what a human body is. So it doesn't need to be shaped like a human. It could just be brain, heart, blood, or, lungs, bone, muscle. Like, it could have those things, but not necessarily be shaped humanoid, where the brain could be the center and everything could spill out in like a web of sorts, spill out from a central location or something. It could be another dimension or what have you. Zevron says, or maybe you're trying to kill a Tarrasque by killing the brain and heart, since it should be physically impossible to kill it in a straight up battle. And you have to go inside of the Tarrasque. That's it. Now, Salt and Wounds, although the Tarrasque isn't big enough for that in this setting, but if you look up Salt and Wounds, that's about it's a setting about the constant slaying and carving up of the body of a Tarrasque. But if you take the concept of a Tarrasque that's large enough, hell yeah, maybe the PCs have to go inside of it and kill it from the inside. And that's the, or you could claim that the Tarrasque we know is the baby because the mommy is so huge that she's just been laying Tarrasque eggs all this time, that it could be the size of ticks on the body of the larger bestial mommy. So they have to go inside of it because it's that island that's been off the coast of your world this entire time has been a sleeping Tarrasque mommy, or it could be a creature where the other Tarrasques are just ticks on its body. So it's something that's completely different than a Tarrasque, but just as large. So yeah. Zevron says, or you could play a D&D version of Monster Hunter, carving monsters to get materials to fight bigger monsters. Yeah, why not? And here let's circle back because we're getting towards the hour mark, but let's circle back to the Ant-Man character. I'm not casting this aside. Just bear with me, right? So if we circle back to the Ant-Man individual, we do find that Ant-Man himself is very, he thinks on the fly, right? He has certain abilities. He can shrink and grow, and he has these little tabs that he can attach to other things that allow them to shrink and grow. But he's got a lot of original ideas to use them. So what if in this world, how do I explain this? Instead of the PCs gaining like new magic, what they're doing is they're gathering resources in the world that gives them the class abilities they have to fight other things in the world. So instead of Burning Hands the spell, what they're doing is they're finding resources in the world that allows them to have the Burning Hands spell. I'm not maybe I'm not saying it right, but I know what I mean. It's going to have to come to fruition. Sorry, guys. Zevron says high wisdom, low intelligence. Yeah, that's me. Dead man, the storyteller. There's the living habitat in orbit around Saturn in eclipse phase. The name escapes me at the moment. Oh, the meat hab. Yeah, the habitat that's it's just a meat hab. Is it, if I'm not mistaken, the person that created it is the brain, and the entire habitat is a meat. Rickard says you take a candle flame and supersize it. Yes, a candle flame could be a blast from a volcano if taken to a large enough size, or PCs shrink down and have to cross a candle flame. It could be that dangerous. Hell yeah, of course. And Zevron says, I says what I mean, and I means what I says. You're fine here, man. It's all love, dude. It's all love. So Rickard says, thinking of, say, Cone of Fire. Oh, okay. So you're saying that like a fireball or Burning Hand spell or any pyromatic power thereof comes from the little candle flame grown to a large size. And that's how the player characters are able to gain that power. I like it. I like where you're going with that. See, thank you very much with that, man. Because yes, absolutely. There could be going medieval. Maybe the character is fey touched, and so they take small things and grow them into big things, right? So they take a small little spider and use this little tiny little spider to make growing it into a web spell. Like the spider grows big and shoots a web spell at somebody, temporarily or whatever. Like little candle flame is able to grow into this big inferno, and that's how they gain their power, because little fey creatures, they're just fireflies, they're no big thing, but on a bigger scale it's like super dangerous or something. Kind of like watching those videos of rainfall And if you take the super slow down version and the zoom in version, how the rainfall is like super impactful, and the insects that are like hanging out on like blades of grass and leaves and stuff, and you see like the raindrops fall like bombs and they just explode off of the leaves, and the insects are like thrown everywhere. That'd be kind of cool. So everyone says you obviously haven't had bad kidneys. They can feel like prison. Roots rewind to disregard. Are you sure? I think that no. I think you're all right. I think um yes, everyone says rainfall in Bug's Life sounded like mortar shells. Exactly. And you know me, I'm the self-appointed third pillarist. I would love to bring that to light with rain and snow, high winds, even like a Rickard bringing up the candle flame. A simple candle flame on a desk could be horrible to someone shrunk down small enough, right? Rickard says brings a whole new meaning to reagents for spells. but that could be, hey, why not go down that path, right? They could literally be the the small things brought to life, right? The 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 people who are sick, like let's say from an infected wound or having a cold or the flu, could be the catalyst to create more powerful magical abilities. And it doesn't necessarily need to be the entire world. It could just be, hey, over to the east, that's how they cast their spells. They take small things and those small things grow into bigger things. Why not? Everyone says a druid casting a spell to make rain in a body may sound impactful, but suddenly you have lightning inside a bloodstream, intense winds and veins. That would be kind of interesting and kind of cool. Why not? Why not mix the two? Why not? Who's to say that a setting couldn't, like I said, couldn't be built off of what the human body is? So the land is based off the human body, but the sky is based off of the weather. So there could be a druid cult, not cult, I don't want to say cult, but there could be a druid faction that is the confluence of like storms and rain and snow. But the land, there could also be either another druid faction or where this ancient realm in this distant land is literally built off of the body of the mad titans that were, well, mad titan on Thanos. I'm going towards that, but you get what I'm saying, right? Zevran says, I don't even know what the effect of lightning on blood would be inside the body. Well, you could go larger and talk about it. Circle of osmosis. I love that. Well, pretty wild, but hey, why not? Well, we could find out what happens to someone if they're struck by lightning, but I think you're talking a lot smaller, like static electricity. You know, from the outside it looked like static electricity. On the inside is a big giant lightning bolt. I mean, that could be it. Yeah, don't rub against that wool sweater. You know what I mean? What is the oh, taser. Jeez, what? My brain. Taser. Rickard says, have a vial of cobwebs that you throw out and enlarge, having a small hand fan and create gust of wind or the like. Oh, I like that. Wow. Maybe maybe creating that spell for a mount. You know what is, I don't know the name of the spell, and I know it's right on the tip of my tongue. Will you summon a horse? Maybe it's actually literally a small living horse inside of your pouch, and you just basically put the horse on the ground and it grows. I love that. I love that idea. Why not play with that? Hell yeah. Liamon's tiny hut is literally a tiny hut that you just pull out of your pocket and put down on the ground and cast a spell and turn it into a giant hut. That's awesome. That is a great idea. I love that. I love that idea. Even you could even do it sci-fi wise, right? You could just say that the technology someone has is normally kept small, but it just grows when you need it. So a mechanized suit of armor could just be like something on someone's keychain. And they take out the mechanized 30-foot Gundam and they take the keychain and put it on the ground and the Gundam grows and they get inside of it, which could be your excuse on how your player characters get in and out of their Gundam suits. Just make the Thanos episode, DBJ. Just do it. Actually, it's coming up. Is it tomorrow? Is Thanos tomorrow? I'll find out. But but yeah, Thanos is this week, dude. I think Doctor Strange. Thanos. No, because you guys gave me the list. So I did Hulk, Ant-Man in order, Scarlet Witch, and then Thanos. So Scarlet Witch will be like the palate cleanser, and then we go into Thanos and then Doctor Strange. Zevron says that horse would need serious blinders stomping what appears to be a slaughterhouse result. Well, yeah, you would have. I don't know how long that little horse would survive in someone's pouch, but you get the point, right? Because I'm pretty sure you would get crushed by the 8-ton coins and bits and baubles and pieces inside of the pouch. But I think the idea still works if you don't look at it too deeply. So la 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 la. I'm not thinking about it too much. I can't hear you. Ricker says electricity is quite common inside the body if you think about it. Neural pathways would send off electrical storms, so you could have you could reskin traps. So instead of pit traps or arrow traps, they could be bolts of lightning going by as neural pathways are activated or something. Or the player characters do what they normally do, which is cause all kinds of harm. So if they cause harm to the body, the neural pathways of pain activate, which means more electricity flows, which means they start getting zapped by lightning because they caused a stomach cramp or a cramp in someone's thigh or something like that. Rickard says, I actually would really like Doctor Strange as he has interesting monk aspects to him. Yeah, dude, we're definitely going down the Doctor Strange monk wizard path, maybe, possibly. You guys not that level electricity. And Rickard says, well, you're so small, that level really isn't really relevant if you look at it scale wise. Yeah, well, because if you think of, okay, the electrical energy in the brain is small. So if you're small, that would be like your shocking grasp kind of thing. But if the human body gets zapped by lightning, okay, so you have different levels. So you got the brain activating and all the brain crap, the neural pathways there. Then you have static electricity. So we're going up another level. Then you have being zapped by a taser, which is even a greater level. And then you got bolt of lightning, which is getting a human body getting hit by a bolt of lightning. So you got your levels there. I'm agreeing and disagreeing with all you guys. Like you have your up. It's like one is more dangerous than the other. Hell yeah. So you could range up the damage, range up the difficulty, and making those saves. I would do that. As everyone says, tries to stop an infection, ends up creating a blood clot in the brain. Ooh, dump all the cleric spells into the carrier. Yeah, because think about it. If you're really small, maybe your cleric healing spell can only heal, let's say, a small tear in an artery or a vein, but you're really going to have to be, 12th level before you're able to truly heal like a blood clot in the brain. So it's going to require like all the PCs, maybe that's like that's the equivalent of a dwarven stone cunning, where to get rid of clogged arteries or brain, plaque that's in the cholesterol in the veins or arteries, like that's how the dwarves like dig that crap out of there to keep the blood flow moving. Kind of weird. Rickard says, though, I would guess you would cause muscle spasms, which could make it a bad time in the place you're walking around in, getting crushed. Yeah, there you go. Collapsing ceiling, getting crushed down in there. Zevran says, and you roll a 1 on the attack spell and hit a nerve, partial permanent paralysis in the arm. Ooh, here we go with the cascade effect, right? You roll a 1 on attack spell and it just sends off a pulse that goes all the way through the body to the brain. And you're like, oh shoot, they know we're here. You know what I mean? Oh, wow. I mean, wow, we could have so much fun with it. I know Ant-Man doesn't normally run around in people's bodies, but if he can shrink down in the quantum realm, he can most definitely walk around inside somebody's lungs or heart or pancreas or something like that, right? So, guys, we hit the hour mark. Believe you me, just like this talk, we can always pull something out of our ass when it comes to some of these characters, even if they're not our favorite, right? You may not even like you may not even like Ant-Man or the movies, but look where we went with this. I mean, we really, we talked about adventuring, whether you're big or small. You don't need to change the stats of the players. I would just use the stats of very large monsters or creatures and then make them the reskinned version of giant-sized people and objects around the player characters who just happen to be in a small place. And you could make any excuse for that small place, whether it's going through a wormhole and that wormhole leads into the circulatory system of this new world. It could be the dead gods, and it could be their body size or anything. It could be all that. Pacific Rim. Oh, science fiction. Pacific Rim mecha going into another world where what are they called? Not the Jaegers. The kaiju come from, and maybe the kaiju are literally, they're 30 stories to us, but they're literally just little bacteria in the body of something else. And so the player characters are like mecha pilots, kaiju pilot. Jaeger pilots. That'd be sweet. But anyway, that's a whole nother aspect which we can go down. But guys, we've hit the hour mark. I really appreciate you guys taking part in this. Really love you guys supporting the channel and just having some fun. Maybe you have lunch or something if you're overseas. If you're in the States, man, thank you for getting up super hella early. So guys, I appreciate it so much. Tomorrow is Scarlet Witch. Thursday is Thanos. And Friday is Doctor Strange. And that's because of you guys. So everyone says, have a good morning and rest of your day. Thank you very much. You too, man. Guys, I'll see you guys later. See ya. Bye.